Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of the Music Den. I am, of course, your host, Armando Venditti, and joining me today is my friend from Ohio, Ryan Gavalier. How's it going, Ryan?
Hello. It's fantastic. How about you?
Doing well. Doing well for a Tuesday afternoon that we're taping this on.
For
Tuesday,
sure.
sorry, Thursday.
No, it's Thursday.
It's Thursday. Sorry, guys. I'm doing good. Really am. Took both pills today, not just the one. Anyways,
Nice.
on this episode of the Music Den, we're going to do another installment of Misguided or Misunderstood. Now, in the previous video on Extreme, I talked about that we were going to pick an album from a band, and we were going to talk about whether or not the album was a misguided step by the group, or did the audience misunderstand what the group was trying to do with the album. Did the album work in their eyes? Did it not work? Etc. Etc. So on this episode, we are going to tackle a very serious subject here. And I do mean that, tongue in cheek. We are covering the album, The Final Cut from Pink Floyd. Now, this album is very polarizing for fans. They either like it or they can't stand the sight of it. I'm going to give you a bit of a background on it. It was released in 1983 through Columbia, Harvest in the UK, Columbia in the US, and Canada. It was the follow-up to the massively successful The Wall. The original idea for the album, the original title was going to be called Spare Bricks. And it was going to be looked at as a soundtrack, or used as a soundtrack, pardon me, for the Wall movie that came out in '82, directed by
hmm
Alan Parker. Fantastic film. If you haven't seen it, go check it out.
hmm
At this point in the band, things were fractured beyond repair in some people's eyes. Most notably Roger Waters. Um, these tracks that were used for the album were left off of the wall for whatever reason, and they were going to be finished up and put on this follow-up Spare Bricks. David Gilmour had a particularly hard time doing the album because he had a fight with Roger Waters saying, if these tracks weren't good for the wall, what makes them good now? Right? Fair assessment, right? So there was that dissension in the ranks. And I mean, let's be honest. At this point, Roger Waters' domination over the band was solid. It was resolute. There was no way that he was going to give up control. According to him, without him, there was no Pink Floyd. So whether or not you agree with that, it's up to you. You can leave your comments down below. So they and again, at this point, Rick Wright was out of the band. He was forced out of the band by Roger Waters. And to be fair, Gilmour also said that Rick Wright wasn't really writing any material for the albums. I think the last time he contributed material to any of the albums was Wish You Were Here. So that's a good 8 years prior, right? 1975. So in his place, you have Michael Kamen, composer for movies primarily. He went on to work with Queen on the track for the Highlander soundtrack, Who Wants to Live Forever. So he's filling in at this point on keyboards, piano, etc., and production duties. So yeah, what we're going to do is we're going to talk about whether or not Ryan and I believe that is this album a misguided step, or was it misunderstood by the public at large? So I will hand over the mic, figuratively, to Ryan.
Okay. So Final Cut is, like you said, came out 1983. For me, this album is not quite, I think it's a little bit of both, honestly. And I enjoy the album. I think it's probably it is the last good Pink Floyd album. They haven't done anything since it's worth a shit. But um
He's shy, everybody. So
honestly, the greatest examples of a band that they were able to survive Sid not being in the band,
yeah,
changing their sound completely
yeah, you're kind
from
of
where
fading in and out though. Like when you
am
speak,
I?
you kind of fade out a little bit at the beginning. Yeah,
Is it better now?
yeah, yeah,
Okay, cool. Um, so yeah, like they were able to survive Sid and by changing their sound. I do think Rick Wright leaving the band was huge because for me, Rick Wright is my favorite part of Pink Floyd. I actually think that the dynamic that him and Roger and David and Nick, yeah, like Nick, all them together,
yeah.
I think their dynamic is just so amazing. But I think that his textures, especially on like the organ and the piano and the synth, and then his vocals as well, like his backing vocals and such. I think they just add so much to the heart of the band. And I
Mhm.
think even though Michael Kamen's really talented and I think he does a good job on this album, I do think we miss Rick Wright because I just think Rick Wright is so much of what Pink Floyd's sound is. Um, and not just like him individually, just the way that he melds with everybody. I think that when they were at their best, they just had one of the greatest chemistries a band ever had.
Oh
I mean,
yeah,
you listen to an album like Metal and the chemistry is just there and you hear it. But every time someone left the band, that chemistry was leaving and leaving. And I do think that happens on this album, but I do think the fact that Roger's still on it and contributing helps it still be a pretty good album, although not their best by any means. I think it's a middling Pink Floyd album. Um, Not that it's bad, I still really like it, but it's definitely in
yeah.
the middle of the pack. It's not Dark Side of the Moon. We'll put it
Oh
that way. And it's not Metal, and it's not Animals, and it's not, you know, The Wall. I might like it about equally to The Wall. I might like The Wall a little bit more though.
yeah,
But Wall is also middle of the road for me, honestly. I like Umaguma more. So this one, yeah, it's in the middle
yeah,
of the road because I think it's a good album. I think, you have songs like The Post-War Dream, that's pretty beautiful. You got The Gunner's Dream, which I love. That's got some great saxophone on it.
yeah.
Um, you know, you got The Final Cut, which is a good song.
Hmm.
Um, I don't know, the Fletcher Memorial Home's cool. I don't really like that song Not Now John. I think the backing vocals on it are pretty stupid, and I think the actual vocals are just kind of garbage too. It's a really cheesy song. It just sounds like an updated Young Lust, but like a shitty version. Um
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
so I don't like that one at all. Um and like I just think that I don't know. I mean, I love Roger Waters, and I think he's a huge part of what makes this band great. But when he's completely running the show, I do think you definitely lose the magic of Pink Floyd. I think it's still really good material, and I think it's like a extremely valid and dark and gloomy album. But I just don't feel the same magic that I feel with some of their earlier stuff. There's nothing that blows me away. It's more just like, yeah, this is really good. I like this. Oh, another emotional David Gilmour solo that I've heard like 50 times already, like,
Yeah.
and it's still good on this album but from here on out with the band, they almost become a parody of themselves with just having these David Gilmour vocals, these sentimental vocals, these big emotional guitar solos. It's just like, how many times are you going to do the same damn thing? It's not even magical anymore when it used to be infectious, but at this point you just know it's what's going to sell records. And I feel like this isn't that, but it's a step in that direction. So I think that when I hear people say this is the worst Pink Floyd album, I'm like, bullshit. Because Momentary Lapse of Reason, Division Bell, Endless River, Atom Heart Mother, those all exist. So this can't be the worst. Um,
Okay.
and
How do you really feel? I mean, you're
I
holding back.
always, oh, I never hold back.
Oh, I know that. I know. That's cool. No, you know what? Um, that's what this episode is about. It's
Yeah.
discussing whether or not the album in question is either a misguided step or is it a misunderstood, is it a product that's misunderstood by the audience at large? So that is
Yeah, and
the idea of this. So you go for it. I mean,
I just think so. Yeah, it is misunderstood because I have heard people say that it's the worst Pink Floyd album, and I'm just
yeah.
like, in what world? Do you have ears? Like, you know, the stuff that they put out after this is just like sentimental, saccharine bullshit, and this album's not bullshit. Like, I think that Roger is an egomaniac, and I
Oh,
think
definitely.
that um he's not someone I'd like to sit and have coffee with, but I feel like he's honest though on here. Like, I think you see that. Like, I think you do see that he's an egomaniac prick. And that's like, I'm fine with seeing that as long as someone's honest. It's like I said with Prince yesterday.
Mhm.
I mean, because Prince was a prick too, but you know what? He was an honest and brilliant prick. Like,
He was an
you know,
autistic prick.
he was. He's artistic, motherfucker. Like, like,
He was not. I was gonna say artistic motherfucker. Instead of sexy motherfucker. Instead of sexy
artistic
MF, it was an
motherfucker.
autistic MF, right? Sexy motherfucker.
Yeah, but like, I guess that's my point with this. I think this is still a valid album. I think it's still them trying to be experimental and not
Yeah.
just sleepwalking through boring AOR new age bullshit albums. But they're still trying here. I just think they're a fractured band. So is it Misguided? Maybe kind of, but I also think they did the best with what they have. I think the only thing I would say is I would like a bit more just collaboration throughout the three of them, but obviously that's not where the band was at the time. And then Rick Wright being gone, I can't say is a fault to the band. I mean, that's just what happened. They did the best they could without him. It's like when Genesis lost Steve Hackett, or when they lost Peter Gabriel, they just had to figure out what to do next. Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
it happens in bands, so I can't fault them for that. I just think I will fault for going on after Roger leaving, and such shit sucks. But this, I think they still tried. Um, so yeah,
Ladies and gentlemen, um, we are doing a album ranking of Pink Floyd in the future. It's been rescheduled because we want to get Ryan in on this on this episode of the Pink Floyd album rankings. I think I know where he is going to position Momentary Lapse of Reason and The Division Bell. Stay tuned. What were you saying?
The question is, which one will get the bottom? That's basically where it's
Yeah,
at.
yeah, yeah. Okay.
And then,
No, I mean, you know
but
what? In all seriousness, your points are extremely valid.
yeah,
Um,
thank you. And I mean, yeah, I think, like I said, I think this is a good album. Is it their best album? No. I don't think it's a mistake, though. I don't think it's a offensively bad album like I've seen some people and some lists say. Like, I think it's fine. I just think that they're not what they were 10 years before.
yeah. Um, okay. Here's a question for you. Not Now, John was the single release in the US.
Mm.
According to sources, the only single release. Um, I agree. Not Now, John is not the best track on the album, and it does sound like a Young Lust Jr. I mean, there's even another uh, track, as he's trying to stay serious, ladies and gentlemen. Um, there's another track, I forget which one it is, that has a rhythm guitar section that sounds like it's like a that the guitar that's being played, the it sounds like it's a reject from Another Brick in the Wall kind of thing.
Yeah.
It reminds, it's a direct lift from the Brick in the Wall, the rhythm section of it, rhythm guitar section. Um, so what song would you have released as a single?
Mm. Honestly, the Gunner's Dream, probably. It's the
Mhm.
best song on the album. Like, I
Yeah,
mean, I think I don't know. I think it's rough because I just think that like nothing on this album, if you're a fan of The Wall, like if
yeah,
The Wall is your favorite Pink Floyd album, then you'll probably like this album.
mhm,
If your favorite, if you're like a purist Pink Floyd fan of like metal and like um Obscured by Clouds and Dark Side and stuff, you might not like this album
yeah,
because a lot of the and the production are gone. It's a lot more straightforward. It's a lot more radio rocky in the production. So it's like I think that song would be okay for fans of The Wall. You got the
yeah,
saxophone, you got the guitar. It's an emotional song. It's
mhm,
beautiful. But if you're trying to go for fans who like echoes and stuff, they're gonna be like, "Fuck is this shit?" But
yeah,
you
yeah,
know, when did Pink Floyd go soft? Like, so it's like
yeah.
I
I
feel
know what
like
you're
this
saying.
album. I just think this is a polarizing album, and it's like I get why it's polarizing because it's a very different. It's not Pink Floyd.
It,
It's
you
like
know,
when Dio joined Black Sabbath. That's not Black Sabbath, but it's still really good albums.
okay,
Yeah,
yeah,
that's kind of how I feel about this.
okay. Um, Spoiler alert, we're going to be doing a Bill Schuster and I are going to be doing a Black Sabbath album ranking at some point. Um, just to throw that out there. Stay tuned. Um, I I hear what you're saying. I agree with you. Um, to me, in terms of a single, I would release either The Gunner's Dream or the Fletcher Memorial Home.
Yeah, I
Um,
agree with that.
or even as a double A, like a, where you can put two songs together, like on a single side. I would have put the Fletcher Memorial Home with When the Tigers Broke Free.
Yeah,
Kind of like
you know,
a,
one thing I wish about. Oh, sorry.
sorry, go ahead, go
What were you
ahead.
saying? Oh, you finish first. Mine's off topic.
Yeah, and we always stay on topic on this show, don't we? On this channel, especially with Ryan and myself. But we have fun. Um, that's the one thing that we have on this channel with Ryan is fun. Um, I think that um I think that this album is misguided only in the fact that when it was in the fact that it was released when it was and the climate that it was released in terms of the band's dynamics. Um, you had Roger Waters dominating the band.
Mhm.
I mean, again, his domination on the band was solid. I mean, you couldn't blast him off the toilet kind of a thing if you had to in order to get him to do anything, in order to get him to bend to anyone else's opinion or way or will. And I think
Yeah.
and I think but uh I think that Gilmore and Nick Mason, Dave Gilmore and Nick Mason, are guilty in letting him run rickshaw.
I honestly was just about to say the same thing. I think part of it's that the others were lazy.
Yeah, yeah.
I think Rogers, I think Roger over was not, I mean, it's definitely an ego thing, but also, like, if you look at the songs that David Gilmour wrote in his solo career and
Yeah.
later Pink Floyd, I'd be trying to take over the songwriting too, because David became fucking incompetent at writing songs after a while. He's one of the most boring songwriters I've ever heard in my entire life.
You
It's like,
see, you see,
it's like,
this
who
is
gave this guy a lobotomy? Like, it's so boring.
you see, this is where I disagree in that I think that David Gilmour's writing for the Floyd albums, for Momentary Lapse and Division Bell, and start sending your hate mail now. But I think that he did a good job in continuing. I do agree with what Pink Floyd were doing. I do agree though that Roger Waters added another dimension, another dynamic to the songwriting, which made it more well-rounded. Do you know what I mean?
I guess I think for me, where my struggle lies with it is that, like, so you have like bands like Genesis.
Yeah.
Yes, just went Genesis went pop, but they were still cutting edge with that pop. Pink Floyd became lethargic. They just started making like new age mom music. And it's like, why? Like, you were like literally like one of the most adventurous bands of the 70s. Like, you were cutting edge for electronic music,
Yeah.
for art
Yeah.
rock, and now you're making like music that I'm gonna listen to in Starbucks. Like, what the hell? And
Okay.
there's just no merit to it for me.
Okay.
But I get why people like it, but
Yeah, no, I mean I like it. I mean, I do like for example on the final cut, which is what we're talking about today, guys, is um again, Ryan, when Ryan comes on, we have a hell of a time. So forgive us and forgive us for this. But I do like Rogers tracks, like when the Tigers broke free, the Fletcher Memorial Home, get your filthy hands off of my dessert. I whatever the hell that means. I mean, it's like, okay, it's a bit odd. The final cut, the title track, I think it's good. Um, I do think that the album is idiosyncratic in that it basically focuses on what Roger's thinking and what Roger's feeling with regards to the loss of his father, Eric Fletcher. Um, because his father was a soldier in the war, and his father died in 1944. And To an extent, that's what pissed off the band too, is that, there were interviews with Richard Wright when he said, Jesus Christ, if we have to hear another story about, Roger and losing his father in the war, and like, yes, it was tragic and my heart goes out to him, but basically said, give me an effing break, like, we got to move on. Like, we're in the business of making music and entertaining people. We're not in the business to do an album that's a sonic therapy session. Do you know
Yeah,
what I mean?
I get no, and I agree with that. I mean, it really is more of a Roger Waters solo album.
With Pink Floyd backing them up.
And like kind of what I said, I just see it as a really good album that's not a Pink Floyd album
Yeah, yeah.
because I just I don't know. Honestly, I honestly consider The Wall kind of similar. The Wall is a great album, but I don't think of it as Pink Floyd.
Okay.
I think of Pink Floyd as Animals Back.
Animals. Sorry.
Animals and Before.
Okay, okay,
They're
okay,
like two different bands to me.
okay,
Art, they
okay.
were art rock until The Wall became commercial rock.
So you're saying that this album is a bit of both, that it is slightly misguided and it's slightly misunderstood by the audience at large.
Yeah, it's still a really good album.
Mm,
So I would say it's misunderstood when I hear it getting called like a piece of crap.
okay.
But I do think it's still misguided as well.
Well, I mean, I would have to agree with you. And guys, we did not talk about our views before we started taping. So, but I listened to the album again yesterday. I
Me
guess
too.
with fresh ears. And that I liked it more when I heard it yesterday.
Really, I was the opposite.
Really?
I used to like it more. I think like because growing up, like there was a point of time where I kind of thought like On the Turning Away was shit. I mean, was the shit.
Yeah, was
Like,
the
and
shit.
I still think it's like a good song. Like that's one of the few things on Momentary I really like. Like that Learning to Fly or Fine. It's really the rest of the album that kills me. Um, but um, but like
Ryan is shy with his opinions, ladies and gentlemen. But that's good.
yeah, I mean like I just feel like so I growing up I liked more like their commercial sound. And I kind of like that this because it had like a lot of good David Gilmour solos, and it was a lot of just like I don't know. It sounded a lot like The Wall, but as I've gotten older, I've appreciated really like more of like I said, Rick Wright and the textures he could create, and that's just not here. And like the songwriting's not quite the songwriting all just sounds like wall outtakes. It doesn't really go anywhere
Yeah.
adventurous. And they were
Yeah.
just such an adventurous band before.
Yeah, it just seems to me, and I'll tell you something about what happened during the recording of it that I read. It just seems to me, I mean, the album is good. These songs are, I mean, there's no way around it. These songs are left over from the Wall sessions, a good amount of them. So there's got to be there's that thread to the past. I mean, let's not kid ourselves. It just seems to me that the band, Gilmore and Mason and Kamen, are basically walking on eggshells around him, around Roger Waters, and that, he's directing everybody, and he knows what's best for the band, because in his eyes he is Pink Floyd. I mean, you know, so yeah, and I mean, there's a story of Michael Kamen stated that one of the recording sessions, before they started recording a take, he was writing something in his book, and Waters walked into the studio and just screamed at him, like, "What are you doing? Like, what are you doing? Like, what's wrong with you?" And Michael came and just looked at him and said, I'm just transcribing what you want me to play on this take. Do you know what I mean? Like, you want me to play a certain way. You want me to play these chords, these key, in this time signature. This is what I'm writing. This is what I'm doing. Here, look at my book. He looked at it. Okay, give it back to him. But I mean, why? And in all fairness, too, you as a musician, would you ever agree to record with someone or be in a group with someone who is that domineering?
Depends
On
how much I believe in the material.
really?
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean,
Okay.
Miles Davis was a motherfucker, but I'd never turn down playing with him.
Okay. All right. Fair enough. Fair enough.
Yeah.
So I guess we're agreed that this album is misguided. It's a 50-50. It's a tie. It's like it's misguided and it was misunderstood by the fans. So
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, hell, I really don't see them releasing a final cut box set anytime soon because like
I don't know, actually. I think it's honestly getting, I think it's been received better over the years.
well, yeah, I think it's viewed. I think it's sort of gained favor over the years from when it was
They
first.
put it, they put out a deluxe box set of Chris Squire's Fish Out of Water, so I feel like they'll put a deluxe box set out of everything.
Okay, okay,
I mean,
all right.
that's a good album. Don't get me wrong, but a deluxe box set, like,
Yeah, I know, I know, I know, I know. No, it's true. It's true. Well, all right. Well, there you go, ladies and gentlemen. This is our opinion on the final cut from Pink Floyd. Um, was it a misguided step? Was it misunderstood by the audience at large, the fans? I really don't know if we're going to get the definitive answer, but you know what? That's what these shows are about, to get your opinion. So please leave your comments down there, down below, and let me know what you think. And, so we can get like a dialogue going. And please hit like and subscribe and hit the notification bell to keep yourself informed as to all the new topics. Product that's coming out, they're going to be putting out. I'm going to be doing about maybe 4 or 5 of these episodes because there's always new albums in the past that we could discuss, and whether they were misguided or misunderstood, you never know. And Ryan might be coming on for another episode. We're going to discuss that at a later date. But for now, I want to thank Ryan Gavalier for coming on, keeping me in a serious tone, as you always do. And for Ryan Gavalier, I am Armando Venditti, and I want to thank you guys for tuning in, because I know you are. And please look after yourselves and one another, and stay safe and have a fantastic day. All right. Bye for now.